Thank you, Matthew. The Indiana State Police right now tell us that they're facing setbacks with their latest fleet of Dodge Durango police vehicles.
And yep, you heard it right. More Dodge Stellantis issues. This time with about 40, I think it's 39 of Indiana State Police's Dodge Durangos. Now, several of you, a lot of you have asked in the comment section the last few videos why I'm not talking about this and why is nobody talking about this. And I know TK did a video on it, but I haven't seen anybody else do videos on it. And most of you were shocked that I wasn't jumping in and doing a video on this. And let me quickly explain why. I own a Crown Victoria, and what I learned in owning a police interceptor, an old police car, is that everything about those police cars is different than a civilian car, and I'm assuming the same thing is with those Dodge Durangos.
For its part, Stellantis says the police version of the vehicle is put under more pressure than the civilian version, and the issue is too hard to detect.
Meaning, on my Crown Victoria, it has a beefed up electrical system, cooling system, coolant system, oil reservoir. I mean, all these things were significantly more designed around cars idling for a long time to prevent them from overheating, to make them last longer, wear out slower, all that kind of fun stuff. Well, I assume, and based on what I've read and heard, is for sure some of those same modifications have taken place with the police Durangos, the police Explorers, any of the police version machines, right? The cars that the police departments require certain crash test ratings and safety equipment and all that fun stuff. Now, I would expect that from, and I'm a little biased, from the days of the Crown Victoria, certainly none of these SUVs, none of these new police pursuit vehicles are as good as the Crown Victoria. I love that thing. I've had it for a year. I've had no issues with it. Put like 20,000 miles on it, drove it across country, and I'll tell you, in the middle of Death Valley, in the middle of summertime last year, I was driving that sucker with the air conditioning full blast with icicles hanging out of my nose. I mean, the car was insane. And that leads me to the Dodge Durango, police pursuit vehicles, police versions, in that I didn't do a video because I had to contemplate this and how to preface this with you all, that I only want to give you information that would apply to most of us. And in this situation with these Dodge Durangos, I'm going to shift this to, it's more about Stellantis just screwing up more and more and more under Carlos Tavares than it is about you worrying about your Dodge Durango. Because I'm not here to spread fear, uncertainty, and doubt. I think the Dodge Durango is probably still a very, very good SUV. And I'm not hearing about any issues with the Dodge Durango civilian version. So I gotta think somewhere between the civilian version and the police version that the Indiana State Police bought, Stellantis and Dodge did not execute well on the necessary upgrades. And what they've got now is about 20% of their fleet of about 200 that have been put into service. Of the 516 that they bought for almost, what, $26 million have failed with oil spilling into the coolant reservoir.
State Police Captain Ron Galaviz told us 39 of those Durangos, which is about 18% of their whole fleet, have experienced issues with oil spilling into the coolant tank.
And then smoking engines. And how that all happens, I don't know. But if they catch them in time, or they don't let too much oil get in there, then they don't overheat and the cars don't. Either way, they're broken. And for the police officers, for the cops, that's a problem. It's one that anybody could deduce, which is if a cop is heading to the scene of a situation, domestic violence dispute, a crime in progress, a burglary, a robbery, a car accident, hell, somebody gets freaking attacked. I mean, the cops need to get there.
You as a citizen, as a taxpayer, calling 911, asking for emergency assistance, that trooper may not get there because of this engine failure.
And they have to worry now that these Durangos aren't going to make it there. And that's significant. That's a problem. That's a huge issue, because what they've got now with about 39 of these things going down is that they have to worry about the others. So they can't just start picking from the overflow that they have and saying, hey, look, because by the way, these were all, I believe these were all Hemi V8s, so they bought enough probably to last them for a decade, since they know that so many changes are happening with V8s, and the worry about the car makers even producing these things. Well, it appears that the other issue is that while Stellantis, their response was, quote, less than helpful, are still, of course, warrantying these cars, because I guess they've been in service for less than a year, I guess. So they're of course going to warranty these cars, but it's going to take 4 to 8 weeks to fix.
Now, the average repair time, we're told, is 4 to 8 weeks per SUV, which is forcing troopers into temporary pool cars, and police say that's delaying the public surface efficiency that they provide.
But what they're not saying, and this is what I wanted to also wait and see, is if there was follow-up stories on this, because it sounds like this is simply going to be warranty work, but they're not saying it's recall work, which they would have to recall the police interceptor Dodge Durangos, and that's not what they're saying they're going to do. They're saying they're warranty fixes, meaning they're probably going to bring them in. I'm just guessing in this situation. Bring them in, fix them with the same exact parts that failed, and then hope they're okay. Since it's only 20% of the fleet, it might just be random defective ones. Well, if I'm the chief of police or the chief of state police, I'm probably feeling the way this guy feels.
As an Indiana taxpayer myself, I'm angry that we have to deal with this issue. Brand new vehicles that aren't reliable for our troopers.
To make matters worse, state police says their conversations with Dodge's parent company Stellantis have been less than helpful, with no clear plan to address the problem.
Everything is on the table to include conversations with other automakers to determine exactly what our best path forward is.
Which, as he just said, you should probably look at other options, because now you have to worry about every single one that hasn't broke yet. Unless they come up with a recall situation where they know exactly the issue, how to fix that issue so that it doesn't happen. And that's the information I cannot find. But that would seem logical, especially with police cars, that they, I mean, if it's my car, fix it, maybe it'll be okay. But it's a cop, give me a break. You can't do this, especially when they drop $26 million almost on these things. You can't have them out there not knowing whether they're going to work. So, of course, in the statement, though, that Dodge came back, or Stellantis came back and made, it's painful. I'll play it now.
In a statement, a spokesperson said in part, "We sincerely regret any inconvenience caused to the Indiana State Police and are working to expedite service for these vehicles. Since the model launched in 2018 and has been deployed with thousands of police agencies across North America, and overall feedback has been exemplary. But in a job where seconds matter, troopers say the last thing they want to worry about is car troubles."
So what's tough is you could tell the company's being ran by some smug people, and I hate to say smug Europeans, but there's this just undertone of almost everything that comes out of Stellantis that seems just downright nasty. And this statement they made goes through a basic corporate speak dialogue, but then wraps up and ends with, "But we've never had any issues before. This thing's lasted great for the last, decade or whatever. This is the greatest thing in the world." It's like, but that doesn't change the fact that theirs are broken. So by saying, well, nobody else had this problem, it's almost blaming them. And I hate to take it there, but when somebody says that to you, well, a business says that to you, well, you're the only one having this problem, it doesn't make the problem go away. It doesn't suddenly evaporate the problem from the universe. The problem is real, and you should apologize for it and say, we're going to deploy extra resources to speed the repair time up from 4 to 8 weeks or whatever it is, to we're going to get these things done with a recall scenario to determine what the issue is and ensure that it does not happen again, because we care about the safety of the police officers and the people in Indiana. That's the statement. Should I write it for him and send it to him? Apologize, address the issue, address the determination to find a solution, and the reason you're so committed to it. Make it a wholesome, legitimate, caring reason that you're going to get on top of this, one that convinces the Indiana State Police that this is going to be solved, but also convinces everyone else who's looking at any Stellantis product that Stellantis handled this right. And I'll tell you, that's what this video is about. It's about Stellantis. Your Durango's probably fine, unless you're driving a cop Durango, in which case I would be worried.
For its part, Stellantis says the police version of the vehicle is put under more pressure than the civilian version, and the issue is too hard to detect.
But it's how Stellantis is handling it, and just goes right along with everything we've been dealing with them. And it's just ugly, it's just nasty, and it's just downright unprofessional. So for that reason, I decided I'm going to go ahead and put this video up and answer all of you who have been asking me to talk about it. And I think this just doubles down on so many of our feelings that this company just does not care. They're going to, and let's go ahead and talk about what Lee Iacocca said when he was saving Chrysler. He said, we're going to deliver lower priced cars with higher quality.
And that's why Chrysler put together the America Project. Workers, engineers, suppliers, all working together to drive quality up and knock costs down. And guess what? Working together works.
That was a goal. And when he said to his people, that's what we're going to do, which means we're going to have the best workers, the best engineers, the best of everything to make sure that we can get our costs down while improving quality. Now, some of those cars, maybe today you'd say they weren't, but he launched the minivan. He launched a minivan when he was at Ford. They said, we don't want to do it. And it ended up being one of the biggest sellers of all time for Chrysler. He launched the K cars. He brought cars that were affordable for people, that were reliable at the time, and people were happy with the company, and it saved the company. They paid back their bailout money in short order. So that was his strategy. But Tavares, I gotta say, it feels like his strategy is rather than to deliver a cheap car, it's the opposite. Deliver the most expensive cars he can, cut costs as much as he can, which means you can't have the best people, you can't have the best engineers, you can't have the best quality of products, you can't.
Those 30% cost competitive edge I'm always talking about.
Yes, you did hear that right. He's looking to cut 30% of Stellantis costs. Auto analyst John McElroy says,
well, he's going after the company with an axe right now to get cost out.
And then ultimately deliver an overpriced, under-quality machine to all of us. And that means massive profit. But I would contend that it doesn't. Because when you have all the recalls that keep coming up, when you have all the repairs, when you have situations like this, it does damage to the brand. And damage to the brand ultimately gets to a point to where you decide, like you would with a company like Land Rover, that if I buy one of those cars from that company, it's going to be an issue. Like my wife's Land Rover, which is still having issues. Now it's making loud humming sounds. It's only 4 months old. She loves the damn thing. So it's whatever the hell she wants, but it's a freaking joke. And we knew that going in. She knew that going in. When I said, what do you want if we get rid of this thing? What do you want if we lemon law this thing? She says, I just want another one. Like, I love her to death. Oh God. But the stigma on Land Rover is something they can't wash off. It's like the Jaguar stigma. Well, Dodge has always had a little bit of like, well, it's an American car, and they're not the most reliable, but they were cheap. Well, now they're expensive as hell, and they're unreliable, and the quality is diminishing, and the company that's running it, in my opinion, sucks. So that's the video. So with that, everybody, like, subscribe, comment, share, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
As Master Trooper Nick Klinklammer patrols the highways in and around Indianapolis in his brand new Dodge Durango police cruiser, he says he can't help but wonder if he's going to make it to his next call.
You just get anxious about it because you're anticipating it's going to happen, you don't want it to happen.
And it's all because of that new set of wheels that he just got last month.
When we had the Chargers, you didn't even think about this. There was no issue. You got in the car and you went, and the car performed great.